Hi, this is API 510 Pressure Vessel Inspector full course. In previous videos, we have explained what this course involves. This is 8 hours of video, 208 lectures, 1,300 questions, and 3,500 flashcards. And it's for 60 CPD credit hours. All candidates at the completion of the course would receive certificate of achievement worth 60 CPD credit hours that can be used towards their professional development, such as chartered engineer, professional engineer, incorporated engineer, and the like. If you pass this course first time or have a free renewal, 120 days, 24/7 course access. Let's go to Module 1. The basic course, as you can see from here, we are explaining how to apply for API 510, what you should expect on exam day, exam time management, and exam tips. So let's see first how the API exam questions are developed. Normally, a question is designed by a subject matter expert, SMEs, and is checked by 3 other subject matter experts by API. And this validation exercise actually checks 2 items. Is the question written clearly, and does the question actually cover the knowledge that is necessary or important to a pressure vessel inspector? So once that's been validated, it goes into a question data bank as non-scored questions that will be included in the exam questions, and they are not scored. And so API wants to know that whether these are challenged by candidates or there is a high percentage of people answering it or too low. It's not within the range of the average question in terms of difficulty or ease, and hence the non-scored questions. Presently, there are thousands of questions in API data bank, and they're grouped by topics. And once you receive your score card, you will see those areas that is being divided group 2. So anytime you do an exam, absolutely there would be other sets of questions. There wouldn't be the same sets of questions that you will receive if you fail the exam and you want to reattempt or reschedule. Each exam has 170 questions. 140 are scored. Remaining 30 are pre-test questions that I talked about. The new question has been designed and validated by API subject matter experts, and they are experimental questions. And they want to know that, on terms of easiness, it's not been challenged by API candidates, or, that's the right questions. It's quite clear, and it's also relevant to your scope of work as a pressure vessel inspector. And it's not too difficult, it's not too easy. So once it passed that test, it goes into scored type of questions into the data bank. So as the API publication effectivity are revised, the new question comes into the question data bank. So out of these 170 questions that they are shuffled together, and you have to answer all of them because you don't know which one is scored and which one is not scored, 110 are closed book and 160 questions are open book questions. Okay, let's see how to prioritize and plan your study for API 510. You have only a limited amount of time, obviously, to do your study before you go for the exam. But so you need to be more efficient and effective. So you have to concentrate on high scoring areas. We'll explain what are these high scoring areas. And so you get the maximum benefit from your study plan. Now, 510, obviously, inspection code is the most important one. So we highly recommend that that's your top priority. So for every hour, for example, you spend on other publication, spend at least 2 hours studying 510. This is only 60 pages long, and 70 to 75 questions out of 170 questions come from here. So this is your top priority. Remaining, say 80 to 90 questions come from some 2,000 pages of the other documents within the publication effective sheet. That's like one question for every 20 page, whereas for API 510 being 60 page long and around 60 to 70 questions coming, that's more than one page, one question per page. And some people say that if you thoroughly study 510 and then don't look at other publication, chances are that you pass. We don't recommend this, but this just shows how important API 510 inspection code is. Basic facts. So time is your limited resource, as we said before. So your learning efficiency obviously would increase if you have a plan. Why you should spend hundreds of hours of time study where you can get the same amount of score with 50 to 60 hours of organized study plan. Our e-learning course are 24/7 access, and there's online support in case you didn't understand any question, you have any general query, you have any technical query, or you have any access or IT problems, you can always contact us via our WhatsApp, which are here, and we will be normally respond within minutes or hours, definitely within a day. What would you recommend that you could, if you're working, you can actually study 5 to 6 hours a week. You spend your time on, say, a 12-week duration, so that way you can cover it and you slowly grasp the knowledge, and on a steady pace you continue your preparation for the exam. This would significantly increase your effectiveness, and it's got a very disciplined approach. If you have a daily schedule, just 1-2 hours a day, that would go a long way during the exam. So we don't recommend that you just wait till the week before the exam, attend the classroom training and to pass the exam, because there's a lot of information you're going to process in a short period of time, and even if you pass the exam, you'll forget most of it. The faster you learn, the faster you forget normally. So let it soak and take a steady and slow approach. It's a great opportunity also to increase your inspection knowledge and skills, not only passing the exam, and obviously the certification would greatly enhance your career. You can study our first and second module for free, and remember that your proportion of the time spent is on the expected number of the question that we have devised here, and you shall learn about the concepts and knowledge and the codes and recommended practices and how to apply them. So API really want to verify you during the exam if you understood the concepts and knowledge. You have the knowledge, you understood the concepts, and you know how to apply this knowledge in the real scenario. So always the question comes within a scenario, within a context. It doesn't come straight away from the codes or recommended practice, not normally. Okay, let's see how the questions are set. When a candidate is required to refer to a diagram or formula or a table or a graph or curve from the code, it's always an open book question. Calculation type of questions are always open book. Those parts of the codes and recommended practices that are not short and crisp, large sentences, several descriptive statements, they're always open book. Here, you're not expected to remember the information, but should know how to find it in the body of the code. So we'll talk about you have to navigate through that. So on the other hand, the questions that ask in a closed book part are straightforward statements directly taken from the code without much of modification, therefore easy to answer. And as a personal experience, anything that repeated twice or more, they are potential exam questions in the codes and recommended practices. Pay special notes to figures, charts, tables, footnotes especially, and also look at the tables and graphs and figures. See that how that works actually during the actual open book exam, mock exam that we have provided you the questions. So to answer an open book question, you only need to know where to find the answer in the code. So simple as that. Therefore, highlighting the paragraph, frequenting those pages during your open book mock exam questions that we have provided, that would be saving you a lot of time. And try to solve the question actually without, even if it's a simple mathematical equation, try to solve it. It's just like when somebody else is driving, you're sitting next to it. Unless you don't drive, you don't know the way. I mean, you will be struggling, then you want to do it yourself. So even a simple mathematical question, please solve it so that you get used to it. This saves you time. This would avoid you some silly mistakes that you might do during the exam. So it really helps a lot. And also, you're frequenting the soft copy of PDF of these codes and recommended practices. So during the exam, that helps you a lot when you're navigating through these documents. Also remember that, again, 510 should be thorough when you're studying it. Other codes like Section 8, Pressure Vessel Construction Code, Section 9, Welding and welder qualification, and Section 5, NDT procedures or NDT code. It just should be enough to cover the body of knowledge. Our e-learning, it not only covers body of knowledge, but also designed to elaborate or brief the topics depending on number of questions you may expect. So it's proportional to number of questions, the number of actual questions you receive during the exam. So to sum it up, we recommend the following 3 phases of study. If you are a month away from examination, read all the codes at least once and concentrate on the highlighted text in codes. We also brought a publication, Effectivity sheet highlights, that you can look at it and use as a reference. If you're 2 weeks away, concentrate on highlighted text as well as the mock exam question provided, and that just last week or a few days before the exam, concentrate on flashcards and the highlighted text of the codes and recommended practice. Time management during the exam. So as you know, you got 110 questions in the closed book, and you got 2 hours 45 minutes. But you could, if you got a steady pace, you can do it within 2 to 2.5 hours, and the remaining 15 to 30 minutes to review any flagged off question, ensuring that all questions are answered. So always allow 15 to 30 minutes before you end that part of the exam, say in this case the closed book, to make sure that you have answered all the question, or if go back again to any flagged off question and see that to the best of your knowledge you answer the question. For open book part, 60 question, it may take a little longer because you have to refer to the code. You have to go and find out where you can find the information, the formula, the charts, figures, and tables. So it's 3.75 hours. And so it depends on how fast you can do that. Normally, each question is like less than 4 minutes you have to answer on average. So here your pace needs to be 16 questions per hour. Okay. So always keep a tab on the right hand top corner of the computer screen. It shows the remaining time versus number of questions you have attempted. So for closed book, you have, say, 1.5 minutes per question, whereas for open book, you have an average 3 minutes and 45 seconds per question. That means you should answer 40 questions per hour for open book and 16 questions at least as a minimum for closed book per hour. You should always be, your speech should be more than that, because you want to allocate some time for reviewing all the question or reviewing all the flagged off question because before you run out of time. So as we suggested and recommended, you always allow 15 to 30 minutes before your time is up for that part of the question to review all the flagged off question, ensuring that you have answered it to the best of your knowledge. So for example, you may start from question number 1, proceed. If after 1 hour you feel you are maintaining the pace, that is 40 questions per hour for closed book, 16 for open book, that's fine, at least. If not, then you should jumping the question. For example, any question which you can answer quickly, you answer them. Anything that is taking you time to think over it or to refer to a code or recommended practice during the open book, just flag them off, jump to the next question, and keep on going until you finish all the questions, then come back and look at the flagged off question. It's always better when you're flagging off, you also mark an answer, because in case still you run out of time, at least you answered all the questions because there is no negative marking. So at the end, look at the review marked question. There is a button there. You can click on that and it shows you all the questions that you flagged off. Have a look at them for the last, say, 5-10 minutes. All these flagged off questions, see that firstly you answered all of them, because that will increase your chance of passing. And secondly, once you go back, you can see that did you choose the right answer to the best of your knowledge. Any question that you have no clue at all, at least answer them to the best of your knowledge of what you think is right, because there's no negative marking. So before clock again stops, make absolutely sure that you answer all the question. As I said, review all button you can press, or review flagged off question, or review all button. Just make sure that you answered all of them. You have not missed anything, because then you haven't used your chances. How you should prepare for classroom training. Now, we have a hybrid online e-learning plus classroom training offer as well. So for all those candidates who are attending our classes, we have a few recommendations and advice for you. As you can, this is a 5 days classroom training or online training, and we are going to cover a large spectrum of knowledge, which according to API body of knowledge, the inspector should know. This includes NDT, welding or WPS, WPQ, welder qualification, welding procedures, welding inspection, damage mechanism, pressure relieving devices, repair of pressure vessel, inspection code, inspection practice, positive material identification, lots of other issues. So, and then also we are going to have some Q&A, question and answer sessions, and also solve some questions, so all within 5 days. So as you can see, we are going to cover a lot within 5 days. So we expect that you have actually covered all the e-learning course that you shall have access, and you have just a few glitches to resolve. Because we can't wait for, we have to keep a fast pace, and we would like you to pass the exam. So for the sake of our reputation and business, so we want you to maximize the benefit of attending this classroom training. Obviously, nobody can become a API pressure vessel inspector within 5 days of classroom training, but we think that if you do the e-learning before and then attend the classroom and clear your doubts during the Q&A sessions and review of all these topics, you're good enough to pass. This current e-learning is 50-60 hours of study, and you should allow another 20 hours to solve the practice question, quizzes, and mock exams. It's very important that you analyze your area of knowledge that you're strong and the areas where you're weak. So as long as your weak areas are not part of high scoring area, you're safe. Otherwise, you need to build up on that strength and those areas to an acceptable level. We have designed the mock question to complement your knowledge, be in line with the actual exam question. And so this mock exam question are timed. There is a flag off, so we're trying to create the same environment where you actually face when you attending the exam. And solving mock exam question, also please remember that to understand the underlying reason for the right answer, why is it wrong, why that is wrong, and why one is right. And sometimes there is a very valid statement, but because it's not relevant to the question, it's a wrong answer. So just don't jump to the answers and just tick the one that you're absolutely sure that it was in the code, that statement. Because that statement might not be relevant. Or the question is asked in a negative answer, so which one is not. So you read the question very carefully. There's no trick. API does not trick to you to that. It just wants to know that you're reasoning and rational and you understand the concept and you can apply them. So they always say choose the best answer. There might be two answers that you think they are right. Choose the one that you think is the best answer. Okay. Study again regularly. Do not leave it until the day before the class or cram it for hours. It normally doesn't work that way. So everybody is different in the way they study. So choose your own pace, and that is finally choose the way that's easier for you to pass the exam. Make notes on areas that you have difficulty and raise them during the classroom training. We are here to help, or use our WhatsApp line. And again, we have to say that we are running a very tight schedule and during the classroom training, so we expect you to be concise with your questions. It's not a brainstorming or a storytelling session. We have a lot to cover, and we want to make sure that you have grasped it and you are safe during the exam, because you have enough knowledge to answer all those high scoring topics. You can always chat with us, send feedback questions during the e-learning, before, after classroom training. And remember that everybody learns in his or her own way. So adopt a style that suits you best. And frequent short term is better than long intensive sessions. And we have a mobile version of our course that you can, when you can study them when you are on the move. So maximizing, your time. Okay, let's see what are the percentage of question per codes and recommended practices. As per publication effectivity sheet and the body of knowledge, there are 4 codes: 510, ASME section 5, NDT section 8, construction code and for pressure vessels, and 9 welding, and 5 recommended practices plus PCC2 that recently been added to the publication effectivity sheet. So, but they're not all of them, they're not equally important, and we do not need to be so much in depth, study in depth all this. Around 50% of the question come from the inspection code, 510 plus inspection practice that you need to read together. So one is the code that tells you what are the do's and don'ts, and one is the 572 is the practice which tell you how and when you should do the inspection. And 572 is normally the one that you would use on a day-to-day basis as a API 510 pressure vessel inspector, and they both contribute to 50% of marks. And if you compare, their vocabulary is absolutely the same. There is a lot of similarities between these two, but the purpose are different, as I say. Depth of coverage, therefore, should be proportional to the number of expected questions. That should be your study plan. And let's see how many percentage of question you have per codes and recommended practice. As you can see in this table, 510, 572 is around 50, 55%. Section 8, around 10%. Section 9, welding, and 577, you need to read together. One is the inspection, welding inspection, and one is the welding procedure and welder qualification, which is the engineering part of it. Again, another 10%. Section 5 NDT, you have another 10%. Around 5% of question comes from damage mechanism, 571. 3 to 4% from 576, pressure relieving devices. And from PMI 578, you have around 2%, and repair of pressure vessel, you have around 3 to 4%. So that's a percentage of question. Okay, let's see what are the API core certificates are. You have API 510, 570, and 653. These are the come with authorized title. So you have API 510 authorized pressure vessel inspector. This is one of the certificates. The other two are 570 and 653. Piping, authorized piping inspector, and authorized above ground storage tank inspector. If you compare their publication effectivity sheet, you'll see that they got around 30% of documents between themselves are same. These are 571, damage mechanism 576, pressure relieving devices 577, welding inspection 578, PMI, positive material identification, and ASME section 5, NDT, and ASME section 9, welding. So approximately 30% of question for all these three core certification are from the same codes and recommended practice. So most of the inspector, normally they do all three. It boosts their career, and once you have done one, then you might want to go for other two, or at least one of them, other one. So all API question are 510 are held 3 times a year. Each exam window is 3 weeks long. For 2023, it is January 6 to 27, May 12 to June 2, and September 8 to 29. So there is a 3 weeks window, and there are 3 times it's held in 2023. The pass rate is around 55% for this exam, and Prometric is subcontracted by API to hold the computer-based exam. After registering and getting the API approval, you can book an exam date at your selected Prometric test center. And they have a network in 160 countries, so you can also choose remote proctoring. That means you can attend the exam from the comfort of your home or office. We'll explain that in our next videos. The deadline to get the API authorization email is 2.5 months prior to selected test window. And for exam schedules and fees, you can press this button and go there and see when is the exam, what are the fees, and what is the deadline. And then if you want to apply, you can register a free account with API and click on this button, or go to API ICP and create an account directly there. This button takes you directly to API ICP website. Then you need to upload your qualification, provide 2 references, pay the fees, which is $940 if your company actually is an API member. Not, you can't become an individual member. That doesn't work like ASNT or other organizations. So if your company is it, then $730. So most of people end up paying $940 because there are not many companies who are API member. Okay, let's see what is the prerequisite, what you need to have in order to be allowed to attend the exam for the API 510 Pressure Vessel Inspector certification. It's based on a combination of education and experience that is earned within the last 10 years. So prior to submitting your application, just check the below table or go to API ICP and see what you need to have. So if you have a bachelor degree in engineering, you just need 1 year of experience on supervision of performance of inspection activities. If you are associate degree or a 2-year degree, then it can be anything on design, construction, repair, operation, or inspection of pressure vessel. But then 1 year should be at least on supervision or performance of inspection activities. As you can see, the rest is that if you have a high school, it's 3 years, and if you have no formal education, it's 5 years. And the requirement is same. So it can be, say, out of 5 years, 4 years should be in design, construction, repair, operation, and then at least 1 year in supervision of inspection activities. Okay, let's see how API verifies your experience. So they ask you for 2 references. So you have to put the name, whether you're working under them or they're your colleagues. It should be a company email that you send to, you need to provide for your references, and the API would send them a questionnaire asking them to verify your experience on different fields, on welding, NDT, pressure vessel, design, and anything else that's relevant. We recommend that you sit with you coordinate with them, and the best thing is you sit with them and make sure that they're clicking it right. So there is it just takes less than a minute for them to verify you, and the minute they verify you, the API would send you the email authorization. So sit with them, make sure that they got it right or they answer it, because unless they don't answer it, you won't receive the email authorization.